Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of Today's Homeowner magazine and professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
Well, I'm glad you're with us this week. You know, here on Today's Homeowner, we try to feature projects that are not only realistic, but also projects that are very popular throughout the country. Now, one of those projects that I get a lot of requests for is a screen porch like you see here. This is a very large screen porch, has some very interesting architectural features and some practical things that you just have to do to a screen porch when you're building one. We'll look at that, as well as the progress that's being made on a project we looked at a few weeks ago, where we're converting an existing storage building into a very nice mother-in-law suite. You know, this is a very strong trend with all of our parents getting older and older and many times moving back in with their children's family. We'll take a look at how we've created this separate living area and some of the challenges we had to overcome. I hope you'll stay with us here on Today's Homeowner. Welcome back. Now, this screen porch we built a couple years ago for the homeowners, and overall it's holding up real well, particularly the lattice that we used around for the underpinning of the foundation. Now, one of the reasons it's holding up so well is that it's a thicker than normal lattice. This is actually a ½ inch thick, and of course it is treated. And a good tip on painting treated material of any kind is to allow it to etch or really dry real well out in the sun before you actually paint it. Then put your coat of primer on it, usually an oil primer, and then 2 finish coats of paint will allow it to last like this has. Of course, this is very prone to water damage being so close to the ground, but if you use these techniques on it, it'll last a long, long time. Now, this house was built in 1908, and the homeowners were very concerned about architecturally it matching the existing house. So we used a lot of materials like the true 1-inch thick treated deck board. It's tongue and groove, it's also treated, and really looks like a porch that's 90 years old. Now, another thing I like about the design of this porch is how the steps come up in 3 different directions, and then a nice landing here before you walk into the porch. Also, the handrails add a good safety feature to the steps, as well as a good accent architecturally because of it being painted the color that it is and how it just directs you to the inside. Let's go inside. Now, one of the first things you notice when you enter the porch is how big and tall everything is, particularly the custom wood doors we installed on the rear of the house. Now, these doors are almost 8 feet tall, and they have double pane insulated glass panels on them, which really helps on the energy efficiency. But because of the large panels, gives us plenty of good natural light into the breakfast area as well as the kitchen. Also, you can see how tall the ceiling is, going up to almost 14 feet tall, and it's a hip vault design, and we've used the stained beaded board to really give it that nice warm feeling. Now, anytime that you can raise a ceiling and create a taller ceiling like this can really help you during the summer because the heat will rise, keeping it a lot cooler. We've mentioned this several times on the show, and it really does help you a lot. If you have the ability to raise it, do that. Also, if you have children in the house, you need to think about a barrier along the perimeter of a porch, particularly this one that's about 3 foot up off the ground. It can really be a problem if a child pushed against the screen and fell on through. So this will allow you to protect from that happening, as well as any kicking or any tears that might occur on a large piece of screen. Now, in this particular case, it's such a large piece of screen, the handrail provides a little bit of a visual break there, helps it architecturally. Now, when you're planning a porch like this, think about how you may use the porch. In this case, the homeowners do a lot of sitting out here, a lot of coffee in the morning, and they realized they needed a television out here for the kids. And so early in the project, we were able to route some cable lines and some electrical outlets inside the wood columns to make it perfect for this little outdoor entertainment center they have. Now, on the house that we mentioned out back where we converted the storage room to a mother-in-law suite, we also have an outdoor area similar to this that's open, it's not screened. but we were very careful in using many of the same materials so that architecturally this would tie together real well with that building. Let me show you what I mean. Now you can see the wood columns that we used here on this porch are the same style as we used on the screen porch. Also, the ceiling is the same with the beaded board, the ceiling fans, as well as all the colors of the siding all tie together this building with the other building real well. Unfortunately, we were unable to use the taller glass doors because of the ceiling limitation on the inside. Just wasn't quite tall enough, but we were still able to get some large panels of glass in here to get some of that natural light inside the room. Now, one thing the homeowners anticipated when the electricians were on the job is to wire in some speakers, not only to give sound out to the swimming pool area, but also here under the porch. Now, this was kind of a unique situation in that the original storage room had a wall here, and this could have been used for living area, but they decided to remove the wall and allow it to be this recessed porch area. Now stay with us. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the challenges we had in making the storage area a living area.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair pro Alan Lyle show you this week's simple solution.
Now, if you've ever lived in an older house, you've probably done some plumbing yourself at least one time.
And I love these old sinks, but you know, when you get a drippy, leaky faucet, that could run into some cost. You see, the valve stem inside has a seat made of brass. If there's any damage to that, it does cost a little bit of money. But believe it or not, most repairs take just replacing a 25-cent washer.
Now, even though the washer only costs 25 cents, it can cost you a lot of money each month in your water bill if you have a drippy faucet.
Let's show you how to replace that. Now, first of all, underneath the sink, there are two water cutoff valves. We shut the water off before we did anything else. Next, we're going to take just some adjustable pliers, and we're going to loosen the nut that is below this particular stem. Once that's loose, should be able to remove that. Remember, the water is off. All right. Now, if you look, this is your valve stem. This is the seat here. You can see it's made of brass. And there's the washer right there. If you look real closely, you can see that's pretty worn. Now, to replace the washer, in most cases, it's simply held in place by one screw. Simply unscrew it, and you're ready to replace the washer.
Now, you can take the washer to the hardware store or plumbing supply house to get the exact washer that you need. But many times it's just as inexpensive to buy an assortment pack. That way you have the washers you need for this repair as well as other faucets in your house.
Also a good idea, while you've got the valve stem off, to go ahead and clean off any corrosion that may have built up over time.
Now, Alan was able to cut the water off to this sink by using the water cutoffs underneath the sink, but many older sinks don't have these, and you have to go out to the water meter that may be located near the street to cut the water off to the house. It's a good idea to know where that meter is, just in case you really have a problem in replacing the washers. Now, when we visited this project last, we had our roofer here trying to repair the original slate roof. Now, it was about 50 or 60 years old and in pretty bad shape. The decision was made that the roof really had to be replaced instead of repaired. Now, replacing it with a slate roof would have been very expensive, so the homeowners chose this metal roofing, which has become very popular for residential use like this. Also, it's the same material that we used a couple years ago when we built the screen porch, so it really ties these two areas together real well. Plus, it'll last a long time and is only just slightly more than conventional shingles. Now, another problem that we had here involves the plumbing, the drain and water lines, particularly the drain lines, because the level of this floor is so much lower, actually about 5 feet lower than the house. It really presented a problem in getting that drain to work properly. I'll show you how we handled it. Now, you can see the drain lines that come out of the building on this side, and actually they turn to the rear of the building instead of going towards the house. The reason for this, the PVC lines that we have go and tie into what we call a residential lift station, which is basically nothing more than a garbage can size container and a grinder pump that will grind the waste and then pump it with a 2-inch PVC line to the higher elevation and tie in to the house drain. This works great in a situation like this and is almost the only way to handle this without supplying an entire new drain system for this building. Also, this area, if you remember, had a concrete ramp that led up to a doorway going in here. This was eliminated since we had the entryway established on the front of the building, gave a great place for utilities such as our air conditioning condensing unit. Now, the condensing units of today are much quieter than they used to be years ago, and actually a little smaller. This is a 2-ton system and is only just about 2 foot by 2 foot, a little more than 2 foot high. Now, on this type of building, a lot of people think of using a through-the-wall unit like you'd have in a hotel room or a hospital room, and they're just not sufficient for this type of application because the air circulation is bad since we have a number of rooms. Also, they can be real loud on the interior of a room like this. Now, another fellow that'll be by in a few days is our painter, and we encourage him to seal around any opening that we have like this where the air conditioner lines come out, and also any plumbing line or gas lines like we have on this. We seal them up good for energy efficiency, also to keep any bugs out of the house, and also to keep any water from being able to penetrate in the wall, potentially causing some problems. Now, on the inside, the layout is a real nice layout for how it's being used as a mother-in-law suite. Now, here on the interior, basically, we're almost ready for the flooring contractor. The painter has a little bit more touch-up, and we have locks and closet rods to go in, and we can turn him loose probably tomorrow. But now the layout of the whole area is just perfect for a mother-in-law suite. You've got a large room here that's about 21 feet by 26 feet. On this side of the building, we have the kitchenette area, which is enough room there for a small little breakfast table. On the other end, we have a small bedroom with folding doors that'll most likely stay open most of the time, open here to this larger room. Then adjacent to that, we have plenty of closet space as well as a full bathroom. Now, on this side, we also have another closet which will be good kind of as a coat closet. You never have too many closets. And then next to it is our thermostat and our air conditioner return, which comes up and over to an adjacent mechanical room. In the mechanical room, we have the gas furnace, air handler unit. Also next to it is our water heater, which is also gas. And we have the pool pump and filter in that same area with plenty of shelving for storage. Again, you never have too much storage. This place is really turning out great. Next is our best new product.
It's time to check out the Home Center for this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine's editor-in-chief, Paul Spring.
We're looking at a pecan pre-finished hardwood floors. You know, this type of floors really become popular. And Paul, why was this selected as a best new product?
Well, Danny, this is the Jewels of Nature collection from Premier Wood Floors. And in a lot of ways, it's like a lot of these veneered products. It's a 3-ply. There are 3 different layers here. It has the tongue and groove cut into it. But it's on the back where you see a real difference. You can see these deep cuts. That's on every piece, and that offers great flexibility in putting this product down.
You know, if you have this going down on a slab that maybe has a little bit of imperfections here and there, that'll really help to keep it good and flat.
Yeah, in fact, slab on grade is a more and more popular way to build houses, and that means a glue-down product, and not all those slabs are absolutely level. They didn't get all the attention they deserve.
Now, this is pecan. What about some other types of wood that it's available in?
There are 2 others, Danny. It's available both in a beautiful cherry and also in maple, and it's available in 2 different sizes. In fact, here's the maple here. This is 2 1/4, and as you can see, it's a little bit narrower than the 3-inch material in the pecan, and it really imitates the solid wood flooring, the oak strip that we're also familiar with.
Now, I understand it's also available in a walnut that allows you to make a real nice accent around a room. That would look great in a dining room. Well, the flooring contractor has laid out the vinyl composition tile that'll go throughout the entire mother-in-law suite. Now, this has always been a real common way of handling a vinyl composition tile with going with a checkerboard pattern. Now, this one's a little different in that it actually has a pattern in the tile instead of just a solid color. This will really help to to cover up any traffic patterns or any wear and tear that may occur on the tile over the years. Of course, with it being a commercial grade tile, it'll last for a long, long time and is very reasonable in cost. Now, as I said, this is going throughout the whole entire mother-in-law suite, but on the covered porch we looked at earlier, we'll be going with a ceramic tile. Now, earlier today we visited a ceramic tile showroom to look at what the homeowners chose for that area. You know, selecting ceramic tile can be like selecting wallpaper. There's so many different kinds to choose from, it can be overwhelming. To guide us through the process, Tanya DeStefano, who sells a lot of ceramic. Now, Tanya, I know our homeowners were in the other day and selected the tile that we're using for their front porch area. What did they end up with?
Well, because their house is has the peachy tones in it, they selected this one, which blends the house and the outdoors, and it's a good commercial grade, so it's going to work wonderfully well inside and out.
Okay. And what are some of the considerations that people have to have when they're selecting ceramic? What are some of the things you need to know?
Well, I like to know, first of all, where they want to put it, and whether or not they're concerned about dropping something on it. That's where the difference between porcelain and ceramic comes in. Ceramic is either a red or a white body tile with a glaze. So if you drop something that's really sharp or heavy and chip the tile, you're going to see that tile color come through instead of the glaze. Whereas in a porcelain, the color is baked all the way through, so should that happen, you still see the same color on the floor.
Okay, all right. Now, what about the selection process in terms of the finish on it? I know if you're outside like we are here, you want something more of a matte finish. You don't want a real slick surface because of slippage. That's important in selecting the tile.
That's right, and texture will tell the tale on using it inside or out. I think you don't want a glazed tile because it will be slippery when it's wet, but if you get something with texture in it, you should be fine.
Okay, and what about sizes? You mentioned that this was a 13 by 13. Used to, it was just little 4x4s is all you had, but now it's getting larger and larger.
Oh, we've come a long way from 4x4 to 8x8. Most of what we sell here are 12x12s. Which these are, all the way up to a 20 by 20. And the nice thing about the larger tile these days is if you have a small space, you can take a 12 by 12, lay it on a diagonal, and visually enlarge that space.
Now, we've done that a lot where we've removed the walls between the kitchen and the den area and breakfast area, and the homeowner wants the same type of material.
Right.
Turning that on the diagonal really makes it look a lot larger.
Right, and you can do a lot with joints as far as borders and things as opposed to bringing in another more expensive material.
Okay, now tell us about grout. I know grout has really improved over the last few years.
Tremendously. It's lots of colors. We have an enlarged color range. We also have something that's really nice these days, and that is a grout sealer. So it will protect against anything staining the grout. You don't have to worry about the ceramic or the porcelain staining. That's not going to be a problem. It is for your grout, so the sealer is really important.
Okay, well this is some great information, and things change so much in building materials. You have to keep up with these things.
Yes.
And we'll be back here again to talk with you more about some ceramic on another show. And stay with us next as our Around the Yard segment.
Now for a bit of news from the great outdoors as Danny takes a look around the yard.
Formal hedges usually serve as walls or fences in landscapes. They are sheared so that their sides are flat and their tops are either triangular, flat, or rounded. Whichever form you choose, it's important to trim the hedge on a regular basis to properly maintain it, and to taper the sides are very important so that the sunlight can get to the lower part of the hedge, keeping it good and dense. And it's obvious that this has not been trimmed properly because it's so sparse down on the lower part of this hedge. What you need to do in tapering them is keep the lower part of the hedge wider than the top part of the hedge. Here's how you do it. Basically just provide that slope or taper on each of the sides of the hedge. Doing your sides first, then you can do the top later. Now whichever form you choose, make sure you maintain them properly. A little fertilizer really helps to fill it in real well. And if you have a lot of hedging to do, you may want to try a motorized hedger. You know, the ceramic the homeowner selected for this outside porch really will provide a grand entryway into the remodeled building. Now, you know, if you were a mother-in-law, you could get spoiled pretty quick in a room like this, and having the facilities that you have has really turned out great. I hope you enjoyed this week's show, and I hope you'll join us next week and every week here on Today's Homeowner as we show you some innovative ways to improve your home. We'll see you next week.